Travis, what's up, my man? Welcome to the SABM podcast.
Hey Scott, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, looking forward to your investor group Prezo here in a couple of weeks. So you're going to kick those off in June. And I know we connected in the past, but we recently connected again, regarding your new company, Novum Home Loans, and you
Yeah.
guys are getting some serious traction now. And excited to have you on today to talk about what you do.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's always great to, tell the story to, the Academy folks. They'll get it, of what we're doing a little bit better than, other folks and other audiences that we tell our story to. So yeah, just always appreciate the opportunity to explain what we're doing. And yeah, just always looking for feedback too.
Yeah, yeah. So what led you to start Novum Home Loans, and maybe just share a little bit about your background and kind of what led to the launch.
Yeah, so yeah, it's always a windy road, like most entrepreneurs. So I'm an Naval Academy guy. I was a nuclear engineer, surface nuke after that. Got out in 2008 and got into the business through USAA. So I'm from San Antonio area originally,
Mm.
and I had always wanted, it's always USAA was always like that's the company you wanted to be at, when you got out of the military, and went and got my MBA from UTSA, and that got my foot in the door at USAA, and found my way in the marketing organization when I started off there in 2010. And the role that I had was very interesting. It's like, so this was before Zillow and all those big search portals had taken off. USAA was building a platform, a search portal, a home search portal. The idea was you'd come to USA.com, you'd search for your home, get pre-approved for a mortgage, get a USA preferred agent, get a homeowner's insurance quote. All there's a bundled package, right? Everybody in the real estate business is always like for a long time, it's like, what's the one-stop shop? They always want to build that. Well, you'd
Okay.
say that was the strategy. I think, USAA, it was a great strategy, but, I think over time, the emergence of Zillow and Redfin and even Trulia at the time, it just took over that space. And what I learned was, in that process, the home buying experience, the mortgage process is where all the complexity seemed to come into. And it was just like this mysterious black box of a thing, that really just drew my attention to it. And I always joke, I found the one industry that's more complicated than nuclear power when I got into the mortgage business, more bureaucratic than nuclear power. But I pretty quickly when I was at USA, I moved over to the mortgage side of the business, and I climbed the ranks there. I was there for almost a decade.
Mm.
Left there as a senior executive, and really saw USAA go through the transition from what USAA was, I think, when we all knew it, back in the 90s and early 2000s to what it's become. And USA made a lot of there were a lot of decisions along the way that eventually just led to USA having to prioritize focusing on things other than VA loans and
Mm.
mortgage. I think, and not like there are tough decisions that the senior leaders there had to make. And for the mortgage guy, really, what I saw was a opportunity to, me and along the way, I built a partnership with my longtime business partner now. His name's Tad Hensley. He ran capital markets at USAA, and he and I just kind of kept talking, about, man, we could build our own company, mortgage company, and do what USA like was intended to be doing, but is stepping away from. And so we left in 2020 during COVID to start our own mortgage company.
Wow.
And yeah, I'll kind of skip. It's always a windy road to starting. From that to starting Novum Home Loans. And we went and started a digital mortgage company with some guys from Zillow first. Learned a lot of valuable lessons there. I spent some time at Keller Williams building mortgage companies for real estate agents and learned a lot there. And then Tad and I got tired of building mortgage companies for other people, and eventually, we like, hey, let's do our own thing. We started Novum. Novum is Latin for new beginnings, and
Okay.
it's yes, and it's a five-letter word that wasn't already taken by other mortgage companies. So that was probably the more prominent aspect of what led us down to choose that name. But really, what Novum is we are a digital mortgage company built for the military community. And when we really started to look at the market, what we saw, coming from USAA was, USAA just got out of the business essentially. So since 2017, USAA's VA loan volume is down 81%. We were doing like 46, 47,000 VA loans, back then in the day. And last year they just did over 8,000.
Hmm.
So, and then like I said, for a lot of reasons. But that created a void in the market of just, what brand do you go to that you can trust that, is going to give you a good deal? And there's been some other players that have kind of stepped into that, some other brands that have tried to fill that void. But quite frankly, Scott, when we looked at, well, who is doing VA loans? 82% of VA loans are originated by lenders who don't specialize in VA loans, who just do
Oh,
VA
wow.
loans because people ask them to. So we're like, man, there's a huge opportunity here for somebody to build a modern, and you got AI powered, you can really do a lot, when you're building a mortgage company from the ground up. Well, let's do that. Let's build it for the military community, build all the efficiencies with a modern infrastructure that allows us to offer great rates, great service, fast closings and yeah, that's what we've been doing. And we launched a little over 2 years ago, and we're really starting to hit our stride now. So
Yeah. So what stands in the way of not having a great rate? Like, so where do companies like where's all of like the fat,
yeah,
I guess, that you've kind of trimmed off?
great question. And a lot of people, do you know what the average cost still today to originate those 4 inches of paperwork that you sign when you close on a mortgage? You know what the average cost is in the industry?
No idea.
About $12,000
Oh,
per loan.
okay. Per
And
loan.
yeah, and to answer your question, the majority of that cost comes from just people, the people involved in the process to generate that loan that, some lender is essentially going to sell to an investor. And so, there's never one simple answer for, like why does it cost that much? But what it comes down to is just a lot of these legacy companies are so big and they have so much, legacy old infrastructure. They're trying to modernize, but they can't pivot. And like, there's just so many tentacles and different, you know, we always the analogy is it's a long process, when you go from sales all the way to closing, and you get these very well-intended solutions, but it's like squeezing the balloon, where like may create an efficiency in underwriting, but all it does is it just pushes, the problem up or downstream. And then you fix the problem in sales. That creates a problem maybe in marketing or downstream in processing. So really, like you have to create the more efficient process, you got to build it from scratch. And that's what we've been able to do is our cost to originate is half the industry average
Hmm.
already. And it's because we just don't have to use systems that have been around for 20 years. We can use the more modern, the more modern infrastructure, which allows us to do more with the people that we have, be more efficient. And then with that efficiency, now you got a decision, right? Do you just bank it, and create highly profitable? But what we believe is that, I mean, what audience, like more so than the military community, deserves the best value for the VA loan, the benefit that they've earned. They do like there's a lot of lenders out there who, have to hide all their inefficiencies in a higher rate for veterans. And, it's not their fault that they don't work for a company that is efficient enough to allow them to offer, a great deal and great value for the veteran. But that's what we can do. If you build it from scratch and build it from, with the right infrastructure and the right efficiencies from the beginning, you can give, what we all would hope for. I mean, at the end of the day, we're selling money, right? And so it's, what's the best rate you can get? Do you know VA loans? That's an important aspect too. There's a expertise and a level of guidance and advice that you have to be able to provide that for that type of a service. And then can you do it quickly and fastly? And that's where, you need a modern infrastructure to be able to do that.
Yeah. Now, do you guys solely just originate VA loans or other types of loans as well?
Great question. Number one, so no, we don't only, we're not exclusive to VA loans. Number one, it's illegal. And
Oh,
number
is
two,
it? Okay.
and number two, VA loans are a great benefit, but there are situations where it's not the best option for a veteran. So, that's a big reason on why we originate, conventional FHA, jumbo, all the above. But the other aspect too is, we've built a really efficient system, and we find a lot of our clients, they tell their neighbors and their, family members, hey, you need to check out Novum, and so that's another thing I learned from USAA is even though you have a well-intended mission to help the military community, it's not like you're constrained by your capacity. You can offer that to anybody who needs that level of service that you can offer. So we'll always, even by focusing on the VA community, we'll always probably do about 30-40% of our business will be non-VA for all those reasons. That's kind of, typical from a VA focused lender. Most VA focused lenders will do about 60 to 70% of their production will be VA, and there'll be a pretty decent chunk that'll go to conventional FHA and other loan types.
Yeah, so walk us through the process, like from a customer's perspective, and even I guess maybe even I don't even know if it's like how the total, if you're 100% there as far as like what you envision, the platform could be, but maybe just you could describe it as it is today, like if somebody's interested in a VA loan or a different type of 30-year mortgage, like what do they just like walk us through the process and maybe how that might be different from, your local bank or, whoever else, somebody might go to. And then I'd also love just to kind of hear the vision as well,
Yeah.
if,
Yeah, so the process itself, it's highly regulated. And so there's not a lot of variability from one lender to the other in what you're going to go through, the steps in the process. The difference is what it costs you to go through that process and how
Mhm.
fast you can go through that process from step to step. And where that comes from is before, if there's a lot of people involved and a lot of manual processes, that slows everything down and adds a lot of costs to that manufacturing process that, ultimately you as a borrower are going to feel. So what makes us different is because we are more efficient in our operations, like the mortgage application process, it is what it is, right? You're going to fill out, like, we need to know your name, we need to know your income, your assets, we need to pull your credit. And yeah, our system is more modern and easier for us to get that information from you. But once we get that information from you, you're out there searching for a home with your real estate agent, right? And at that point, you got a pre-approval letter. You should always get a pre-approval letter from a lender, and that's what you're going to need to make an offer after you fill out your application. And then, right around that time too is when you're working with, this is where the expertise comes into play. Is a VA loan the right loan product for you? Or based on your situation, is a conventional loan, maybe, in certain situations, an FHA loan? Like, what is the right loan structure? And so there's some loan structuring that has to be done. You shouldn't have to do that as a borrower, right? You shouldn't have to know, is a VA loan or conventional or FHA the best solution for you. That's what the lender, should be able to accomplish for you. And that's why there's an expertise aspect to the talent that you have involved in your operations. So as a borrower, you start off with, get your application. What's the right loan type for me? I got my pre-approval letter. I'm searching for the home. That's the exciting part, that you're doing with your agent. You get under contract and then you give that to your lender, and that kind of kicks off. For us is what's about a 20 days on average, 28 days, is kind of that, the industry, it takes about 45 days. So we're able to shorten that because we're just more efficient. Ordering appraisal, you're doing all of these, the lender is doing is they're making sure that you make the income, you have the assets, your credit profile meets the criteria so that they can offer you a VA loan. And that VA loan, it's not the VA who's giving you the loan, right? It's the lender who's giving you the loan, but the VA sets a set of guidelines and rules that the lender has to follow. So that's what the lender's doing over those 20 or so days, is making sure that you qualify for that. Now that we have all the information we need and the property, meets certain criteria, and then we, put all the closing documents together. And you're at the closing table, usually at a title company. You sign your documents, get your keys, and now you're in your new home. So that's the general process. The general process doesn't vary much, and because it's highly regulated, you have to follow that process. But like I said, what makes a difference is how fast you can go through that process and how much it costs you to go through that process. And that's what you want. That's why you always want to shop around for a lender. Is there's the rate, and then there's the fees that go into it, and the timeline it takes for you to go through the process.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it sounds like you've made it a lot more efficient and exciting, man. And I guess what, as you kind of look out over the next 90 days? I mean, it's like the end of May here as we're recording this. What are some of your most important goals? I guess I would even ask, like, what are you most proud of since you've started, the business? I mean, it was, I know that you've been kind of on this track for about 6 or so years now. And how long have you been how long has Novum Home Loans
Yeah, we
been?
officially formed in late 2023, but I would say, about 18 months since we hit our stride and have really been,
Yeah.
in
Yeah. And
existence.
so I guess let's actually like focus backwards for a sec. So that when you started to hit your stride like 18 months ago, like what was it that led to you hitting your stride?
I think it was focus and clarity is when we, before it was, yeah, let's do VA loans, but, let's also work with real estate agents to handle whatever clients that they want to send us locally. And what we realized is that you just got to pick a lane and you got to be really good at what you do. And when we started to focus on a lane that, we acquire we acquire leads digitally, and essentially, what we've created is a digital lead conversion machine for VA loans, right?
Okay.
So we acquired that lead, and this is what we started doing 18 months ago when we figured out like, hey, this is the path, right? And this is how you help as many veterans as possible. So first off, it starts with the mission. Okay, we provide advice and value to the military community through their home buying journey. That is our mission. So let's focus on doing this for VA loans, right? So now you can start to define your infrastructure and your talent the right way. Hey, you got to be a VA loan expert. And if you're a VA loan expert, you're going to know conventional and FHA also because VA is one of the more complex types of loans out there. So that it starts with that, getting the right talent, and then you build your process. And once we started to do that, what stood out to us was, man, we're really efficient in doing like our conversion rates are higher than the industry average and our cost to originate each loan is a lot less. Man, we can really like we can make the same amount of money that all these other lenders do, but offer a much lower rate to our clients. And so when we realized that, that was like, holy crap, we got something now. So, now it's a matter for us is to continue to scale that process and to just continue to build it, across multiple geographic areas. There's some business model improvements. I don't want to get too technical right now. We're a mortgage broker and we're becoming a mortgage bank, and there's some capital requirements that come along with that. But with that, that allows us to have even more control of the process once we are a mortgage bank and we're lending our own money
Hmm.
versus what we're doing now as a mortgage broker. A lot of folks, if you're a mortgage broker, you don't want that control. You just want to live in the sales, like just generate applications. But we want that control. We want to be an independent mortgage bank so that we can have more control of the underwriting process and the closing process because we're efficient. And we know that part, like that's where we can really even squeeze out more efficiencies and then pass that on, to our clients in the form of a better deal, lower rates. And, that's where that's the path that we're on.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's a more direct path to the capital too. Being a mortgage bank versus a broker, I'd imagine.
Yeah, this is what we learned, through Tad and I, through our entrepreneurial journey is, it's just become clearer and clearer what, where we're going. And, our vision is to be to continue our mission. But from a top-down approach, we want to be a dominant player in the VA lending space. And so you can look at what the VA market looks like. You can see, okay, what does that look like? What does a dominant player look like? Well, right now, it's kind of UWM, a company most folks have never heard of. They're the number one VA lender, but they're a wholesale lender. So what they are is an aggregate of all these little brokers out there who are doing VA loans that, doing a handful of them at a time. But the real leader in the VA space, I would say right now, is Veterans United. Great organization from a marketing perspective. They're really good at getting veterans' attention. But the largest VA lender owns 14% of the VA market, right?
Hmm.
So that's why I go like 82. And so then you add USAA and Navy Federal Credit Union to those. I would say those are the three most prominent VA lending brands in the industry. Combined, they own 18% of the market,
Hmm.
right?
Oh wow.
82% of the market is, lenders who do a handful of VA loans a year, or it's a Rocket, somebody like that who just, they do a bunch of loans and a chunk of those, or 12% of those are VA loans. So that puts them on the list. So that's where we see the opportunity for us is like really taking our efficient model that veterans in the military community can trust, and and taking share in that 82%, that's our opportunity. And I'm not saying we're going to capture all 82% of that, but our vision to be a top lender is if we capture 10 to 15% of that, holy moly, that's about $1 billion in annual revenue from VA loans if you capture, 12, 15% of the market every year. So that's the vision of where we're headed. We want to be like a prominent VA lender in the space. And we define prominent by, 10 to 15% of the market. And that turns in 10 to 15% of, a $7 billion a year in revenue generated from VA loans comes out to about $1 billion a year. And that's kind of the top-down vision of where we're headed. Now, Tad and I are entrepreneurs. We're like, our forecast is not a top-down approach, it's a bottoms-up approach. It's like, all right, we have our conversion rates. We know how like our model, we know our efficiencies, we know all of our metrics. We have them very dialed in because we built them from scratch, right? We have all this technology that allows us to know that. We're going to just extrapolate that and scale it. That's what our financial forecast looks like. Um, and even our financial forecast is like it's very realistic, because it's a bottoms up approach. And our long term view, we went out 8 years. I mean, it still gets us to be a top 15 VA lender. In the it it's racked and stacked on how much we would do, how where we would stack if we're doing 2026 volume, which we would be, happy with. It's not where we ultimately want to go, but it's a realistic path to get us, into that conversation of top VA lenders.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's standing in the way that you're going to
Oh,
tackle
man.
over the
Every
next
day for a
90?
typical business. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Uh,
like as you, yeah, kind of look out over, the rest of the year, the end of this quarter and Q3 and Q4, like what are some of your goals,
yep.
challenges you want to overcome and on your pathway to $1 billion in revenue at some point?
I would say there's three things right now that we're focused on, like, we're not getting distracted. But three things. First is capital raise. So we're starting a capital raise. Half of the capital that we're going to be raising is going to allow us to become a bank, a mortgage bank. The other half is going to allow us to continue to scale. Right. So that's one big focus that we have over the next 90 days or so. It's getting that capital raise across the finish line. And really, from a financial perspective, the reason that's so important for us as a business is we can generate with the same leads, the same conversion, the same people. When we are a bank versus a broker, we will generate 60% more revenue per loan.
Hmm.
So that like this raise just unlocks a huge revenue lift for us, and it also just allows us to continue to scale. So that's probably our top priority over the next 60 to 90 days is getting that capital raise across the finish line. Second is really continuing to improve our secret sauce. So the reason we can be so efficient, I keep talking vaguely about this, modern technology. We have built what we refer to as an AI powered mortgage operating system. And so what this does is if you think about, from a typical loan officer's perspective, you've got a CRM that has all your leads, all your lead data in it. You have a loan origination system, which has all your deal structure, your pricing information in it. And then you have all your conversations, all your phone calls, texts, and emails. And all those things just creates a chaotic environment. Okay, I got a new lead that comes into my CRM. I got to respond to that. Ping, this agent's calling me, on my phone. Oh, I got to get a pre-approval letter out. I got to get into my LOS. And it just creates a lot of inefficiencies because you don't know what to do next and all these different things that you're trying to juggle. So we feed all those in to our system, which we call Relay. And Relay is a purposeful name. It relays information, from across everybody. And what Relay does, it takes all that data from the CRM, all the data from our LOS, and all those conversation data. So one great decision Ted and I made was when we started Novum, hey, everybody's going on the same phone system, so we can capture all the phone calls, texts, and emails into our system. And so what it does is it tells our loan officers exactly who to call next, why you should call them,
Hmm.
and even gives you scripts on what you should say to them. And so all that chaos that typically goes on is synthesized and provides clarity for our loan officers to know who to call, why I need to call them, and even gives them suggestions on scripts on what you should say. And then also we're all about developing our people. So from a leadership perspective, it gives us deep analytics and reporting insights and full funnel capabilities so that we can have very purposeful conversations with our folks to help them be more successful and to do more business and ultimately be able to serve more of our clients with the level with a great rate and with the level of service that that they deserve. So that's the second thing is really improving relay and continuing to focus on that. And then I'd say the third thing is continuing to grow our talent. I don't want to that's, you know, I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to this and, I don't want to be too preachy, but one thing that I think, like, what separates us and the advantages we have as a startup versus the legacy folks is we can win on talent and we can win on speed. And so our technology is what allows us to win on speed. But talent, that's up to Tad and I to be able to identify and recruit the right people. And there's some great VA loan originators out there who are looking for a more purposeful organization like Novum to work for. And so, that's really not in 90 days. That's like our continuous priority is just continuously finding that right talent to come to an organization that we think is meaningful and has a clear vision and has a real purposeful mission, that a lot of folks that's gonna resonate with a lot of folks.
Yeah. And so for your loan officers, are they primarily, are you providing like 100% of the leads for
Yep.
them, or are they going out and, developing their own book of business, or how does that work?
Great question. We categorize in leads. We have three types of leads. We call them first party, second party, and third party leads. The vast majority of our leads right now are third party leads, meaning we purchase those. So there's, lead aggregators out there that we go out to and, hey, we want, a lead form. We want to capture that. And then we put them through our system and off we go. The second type of lead that we generate are called second party leads. Those are referrals from agents. And so we do have, relationships in certain markets with agents, and we, love those referrals. So that's our second type of lead. And then the first is the one that we're going to be building over the next couple of years, are first party leads, which are organic leads. So this is really where our focus is going to be in the midterm, is building a brand that veterans recognize, and they'll come to us without having to go purchase a lead from, Bankrate and those types of places. They'll come to our website, be able to learn about VA loans, see what the rates are. We're not hiding anything, so that's something else that makes us unique. Is we'll just show you the rate that we offer. Here's some rate options for you. Now, you probably need to call us so we can tell you, and guide you into, what's the right option for you. But that generating those first party organic leads are really where we're going to focus in the midterm. But right now, like I mentioned, the vast majority of our business is coming from these third party leads that we're acquiring.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'd imagine you're already probably getting referrals and, folks that had a good experience, recommending you guys to your friends. And I also too, like when you get closer to the capital as a mortgage bank, certainly your margins will increase, but probably also you'd probably be able to offer a better rate as well, right? And so
Oh, bingo.
people,
Yeah.
yeah, so
It,
people
More rate options is what I
more
would.
rate
Yeah.
options. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have more control of our pricing. And that will absolutely, yeah. And I mean, we're all in the military community. Like, word of mouth is more powerful. And I know this from my USAA days. USAA was like, they knew it, that word of mouth in the military community truly matters. Like, if
Mhm.
you don't give a good level of service to our, to our community, word will get out real quickly that, hey, these guys don't know what they're doing. You need to look over them. But if you do give them a great level, great service and great rate, word will get out really quickly that, hey, dude, you need to check out Novum for your next PCS or next time you're moving, because they're the real deal. So over time, as we build that brand, we know that that'll drive more first party and second party leads, referrals, either from real estate agents. They'll learn more about us, and so all their clients that they help, that are in the military community. Hey, you guys, if you don't already know about Novum, you should give them a call and see what kind of rate, and see if you can get pre-approved with them first. And that's really, we started here in the San Antonio and Austin market, and that's where most of our referrals come from, is because we're just known in this community now amongst the agents as, a very powerful tool for veterans in the military community to look into when they're buying a home.
Yeah. Well, Travis, oh, congrats, man, on building this new company and taking all the experience that you've gained over the years and created something really cool for the marketplace. What connections, are the most valuable to you right now? Or, you mentioned, the three things that are your major focus, this year and beyond. What connections are most valuable? How can the audience help you achieve your goals?
I would say right now the connections that are the most valuable are those that can help in their capital raise. So it's somebody who understands our vision, understands our audience, and I think it's a powerful message that's just part of our company that if we can tell the military community, hey, not only are we built for the military community, we're backed by the military community. Like the like our whole I think there's a lot of power in USAA's origin story. In 1922, there were I can't remember the exact number, 12, 14 Army officers who couldn't get insurance, so they pulled their money together and 100 years later, it's one of the largest financial companies in the world. Like that type of, beginning and origin story, I think would be just as powerful for us at Novum Home Loans. And quite frankly, I would much rather work with a capital partner who understands our vision, than somebody who's just looking at it for a financial gain. Because I think our community understands this is more than just building, a company that provides a great financial return. They're on a real mission, and they can actually, accomplish something that's meaningful on their way to, being financially successful.
Yeah. Well, congrats, man. And what's the best way for folks to reach out and connect and get in touch with you?
The easiest way is just shoot me an email. Travis at novumhomeloans.com is my email address. My phone number too. I take phone calls all the time. It's 210-540-0787. I don't know how that's going to work out putting that on a podcast publicly, but email, phone number, I'm available, and I'm always love to get feedback. Always love to just meet new folks in our sphere. And yeah, I know it takes a lot of talent and a lot of help along the way. So we're not arrogant enough to think we can do this all our own, Tad and I. And yeah, just would love to talk to anybody who's interested in learning more about what we're doing.
Well, sounds good, Travis. And we'll put your contact info and website and LinkedIn profile in the show notes so people can reach out and connect with you. And great job today, man. Congrats on all of your success and traction that you've gotten. And here's to an awesome 2026.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity having me on. I really do.